The morning Gordon Hale almost walked past the boy, he was 7 minutes late to the most important meeting of his year. That was the thing nobody ever mentioned afterward, how close it came to being nothing. How Gordon had his phone in his hand, his eyes on the screen, his mind already up on the 14th floor of Meridian Medical Partners, where 12 board members were waiting to vote on the Westside Clinic acquisition. How he was moving fast through the glass lobby of the Meridian building, the kind of fast that makes other people step aside without knowing why, and the boy was just there, small, sitting against the marble pillar near the revolving door like he'd grown out of the floor. Gordon almost didn't stop. He would think about that for a long time afterward. The boy couldn't have been more than 10, maybe 11. Dark hair plastered to his forehead from the rain outside. He was wearing a jacket that was 2 sizes too large and sneakers with the right sole peeling away at the toe. And he was holding something in both hands, a paper coffee cup, empty, with the lid still on, like it was the most important thing he owned. Which, Gordon would later learn, it very nearly was. What made Gordon stop was not pity. Gordon Hale had not built a healthcare network across 4 states by being a sentimental man. What stopped him was the boy's eyes. The child looked directly at him, not the sideways glance of someone hoping to be ignored, not the downward cast of embarrassment. He looked at Gordon the way people look at someone they have been waiting for, steady and certain, and a little afraid. "Sir," the boy said. His voice was quiet, but it didn't shake. "Please don't go up there." Gordon stopped. Around them, the lobby moved. A woman in heels clicked past. A security guard at the desk spoke into a radio. The revolving door pushed in a gust of November air, and someone behind Gordon muttered "Excuse me" and sidestepped around him. "I'm sorry," Gordon said. "The 14th floor," the boy said. "Please don't go." Gordon looked at him more carefully. No sign of illness. Eyes clear. Not distressed in the way of someone lost or confused. Just earnest. Desperately, quietly earnest. "How do you know where I'm going?" Gordon asked. The boy pressed his lips together. He looked down at the cup in his hands, then back up. "I've been watching the building since 6 this morning," he said. "I know who goes to what floor," I counted. Gordon checked his watch. It was 8:53. He had 7 minutes. "Son," he said, and the word came out more gently than he intended. "I don't know who you are or how you got in here, but I have a meeting I cannot miss. Whatever you need." He reached into his jacket pocket, pulled out his wallet, and the boy shook his head. "I don't want your money," the boy said, and he said it without anger or pride, just as a fact, the way you'd say it's raining outside. "I want you to listen to me for 2 minutes." Gordon Hale stood in the lobby of his own building, late for his own meeting, looking at a soaking wet child in an oversized jacket, who had somehow memorized the traffic patterns of his lobby and was now declining his money. He put his wallet back. 2 minutes, he said. "Talk." The boy's name was Theo. Theo Marsh, though he offered the last name quietly, like it cost him something. He was 11 years old, and he had been living with his mother in the stairwell of the parking structure 2 blocks west for the past 19 days. Before that, a shelter. Before that, a single room in a house in Glendale that a landlord had sold out from under 6 families with 30 days' notice, and a typed letter that used the phrase "market conditions" 3 times. Theo's mother, he said, was sick. He said it plainly, without drama, and that plainness was what made Gordon's chest tighten. "How sick?" Gordon said. "She coughs all night," Theo said. "She stopped eating 4 days ago. She says it's just a cold, but she said that last week too." He paused. "She's a nurse," was a nurse. "She knows what a cold is." Gordon was quiet. "I've been trying to find help," Theo said. "I went to the clinic on Rampart Street, but they said she has to come in herself, and she won't, because she says it costs money we don't have. I went to the shelter on Mercy Avenue, but they're full. I've been going to every building on this block asking." He looked up at the Meridian logo above the security desk. "This is a medical company, right? You help people?" "We do," Gordon said slowly. "What does this have to do with the 14th floor?" Theo hesitated. He turned the empty cup in his hands. "My mom worked here," he said. "Not in this building, at Meridian's Eastside Clinic. She was a charge nurse. For 9 years. Gordon went still. "She got let go 8 months ago," Theo said, "when the clinic restructured. She tried to get work at other hospitals, but with no address, no stable phone number." He stopped, swallowed, started again in the same level voice. "The vote today is about buying another clinic, expanding. My mom told me that when companies expand, they sometimes need more staff. He looked at Gordon directly. I'm not asking you not to buy it. I'm asking you to hire her back. Or at least, see her. She's too proud to come herself. She'd be angry at me for being here. The ghost of something moved across his face. She's always angry at me for the right things. Gordon looked at this child who had been in the rain since 6 in the morning, navigating a city alone, declining charity, making a business case on behalf of his sick, proud, sleeping mother. His phone buzzed in his pocket. He didn't look at it. Where is she now? He asked. The parking structure, Theo said. Level 1, near the stairwell door. I made her stay. I told her I was getting food. Gordon turned toward the security desk. Marcus, he said to the guard, who straightened immediately, call Dr. Reyes from the clinic on the 3rd floor. Tell her I need a mobile assessment. Warm coat, field kit. Tell her we're going 2 blocks west to the Collins Street parking structure. He looked back at Theo. And call up to 14 and tell them I'll be 20 minutes late. Marcus blinked. The board. 20 minutes, Gordon said. They can wait. Theo stared at him. Can you walk fast, Gordon asked. Yes, Theo said and stood up so quickly the empty cup fell and rolled across the marble floor. He bent to pick it up and held it against his chest. Gordon noticed he kept it. He didn't ask why. Her name was Adele. She was 44 years old, and she was sitting on a flattened cardboard box in the stairwell of the Collins Street parking structure, with a wool blanket pulled around her shoulders, and a paperback novel open on her knees. And when the door opened and a man in an expensive suit walked in with her son and a woman in a clinic coat, she closed the book and looked at Theo with an expression that was equal parts fury and love. Theodore James Marsh, she said. Mom, Theo said. I told you to get breakfast. I did something better. She looked at Gordon. Her eyes were sharp and slightly febrile. He could see it even before Dr. Reyes crouched beside her, and her voice when she spoke was rougher than it should have been, scraped at the edges the way a voice gets when the lungs underneath it are working too hard. I don't accept charity, Adele said. This isn't charity, Gordon said. He pulled a packing crate over and sat across from her. The stairwell smelled of cold concrete and exhaust. He sat in his $1,200 suit on a parking structure floor and looked at her levelly. My company let you go 8 months ago. You worked for us for 9 years. That's not a good record, and I'd like to know more about how it happened. She studied him. You're Gordon Hale, yes. I've seen your picture in the building newsletters, she said. You wouldn't remember me. I don't, he said honestly, but I'd like to. Dr. Reyes had her stethoscope out. Adele looked at it, looked at Theo, looked at Gordon, and then she sighed, a long, tired sound, and said, Fine. But I'm not going anywhere that costs money. That's not your concern today, Gordon said. It's always my concern. Not today, he said again quietly. Dr. Reyes worked efficiently and without performance. She checked Adele's temperature, 102.6, listened to her lungs for a long time with her eyes closed, checked her oxygen, felt the lymph nodes along her jaw. When she was done, she looked at Gordon and nodded once. Pneumonia, she said. Right lower lobe. Not emergency level yet, but getting there. Adele made a small involuntary sound and pressed her lips together. You knew, Theo said. He wasn't accusing. He was just noting it, the way children note the things they've been afraid to say out loud. I suspected, Adele said. She looked out at the middle distance. I was hoping I was wrong. You're a nurse, Theo said. You knew. She looked at him. Her face did something complicated. Yes, she said. I knew. Gordon made 3 phone calls from the parking structure. The first was to the Meridian Acute Care Clinic on Fairfax. He arranged for Adele to be admitted, treated, and billed to a corporate account he would personally reconcile. The second was to his assistant, Dana, who in 14 years had never once sounded surprised, and who did not sound surprised now when he told her to find him the restructuring files from the East Side Clinic closure 8 months prior. The third call he made, walking back to the building, Theo beside him, while Adele was helped gently into a clinic transport van and spent the entire short ride telling Dr. Reyes, who was not listening, that this was all very unnecessary. The third call was to his daughter, Lena, who was 26 and worked in HR at Meridian's corporate office, and who picked up on the second ring with, Dad, the board is furious. I know, Gordon said. They've been waiting 35 minutes. I know that too. A pause. Are you okay? I'm fine, Gordon said. He glanced at Theo, who was walking with his hands in his pockets and his eyes straight ahead. I want you to pull the HR records for an employee named Adele Marsh. She was a charge nurse at Eastside for 9 years, let go in the restructure. I want to know everything. Her performance reviews, her termination documentation, whether she received the severance she was entitled to. Silence on the line. Lena, I'm pulling it now, she said. Her voice had gone careful. Dad, are you about to do something that's going to make the board even angrier? Probably, Gordon said. He could hear her typing. Then her severance was miscalculated by about 40%. Gordon stopped walking. Theo, 3 steps ahead, stopped too and looked back. How? Gordon said. It wasn't a question. The restructure used a formula based on years in the current role, not years with the company. Her last role was charge nurse. She'd held it for 3 years, but she'd been with Meridian 9. Under the standard formula, she should have received 9 months. She received 3.5. Gordon stood on the sidewalk in the November cold and felt something move through him that was not quite anger and not quite grief, something older and quieter than either. Fix it, he said. Gordon, fix it today, Lena. Get me the retroactive amount, interest included, and get it to a mobile account or cashier's check. She doesn't have a bank address right now, and then I want to see every file from that restructure, every single one. He hung up. Theo was watching him with those steady eyes. She got cheated, Gordon said. Not a question either. Theo looked at his sneakers. The sole was still peeling at the toe. She always said the math didn't add up, he said quietly. But she didn't. She didn't want to make trouble. She thought maybe she was wrong. He looked up. She's never wrong about math. Gordon looked at this boy who had sat in a lobby since 6 in the morning in wet clothes, who had memorized floor traffic and prepared a business case and turned down money and carried an empty coffee cup like a talisman, and who had done all of it for a woman too proud to ask for help and too exhausted to fight for what she was owed. Come on, Gordon said. I have a meeting to get to. You're coming with me. Theo blinked. To the meeting? You can sit outside the conference room. Dana will get you food, real food, not whatever you've been managing. He started walking, and afterward I want to hear everything you know about what happened at the Eastside Clinic, because you clearly know more than I do. Theo fell into step beside him. After a moment, I'm 11. I know how old you are, Theo. I'm just saying, for the meeting. You won't be in the meeting, Gordon said. You'll be outside the meeting. A pause. Okay, and for what it's worth, Gordon added, most of the people inside the meeting know considerably less than you do. Theo didn't answer, but Gordon heard him exhale, a long, slow breath, like something he'd been holding since 6 in the morning. The board was, as Lena had noted, furious. Not visibly furious. Board members of a company like Meridian Medical Partners expressed fury through a particular register of tight mouths and careful word choices and questions that were not questions. Gordon sat at the head of the table and let them finish, and then he told them about Adele Marsh. Not the full version. The relevant version, a 9-year employee who had been let go in the Eastside restructure with a miscalculated severance package, who had not been hired back when the clinic was acquired and restaffed, who had fallen through every gap in the system that Meridian had either created or failed to close. He put her HR file on the projector. The room was quiet in a different way after that. We are voting today on acquiring the Westside Clinic, Gordon said. I'm going to recommend we vote yes. And I'm also going to recommend that we attach to that acquisition a mandatory HR audit of every former Meridian employee affected by the last 3 restructures. Not because the law requires it, because we should have done it already. The tight mouths got tighter. Furthermore, he said, I want to propose a pilot program. In partnership with the Westside Clinic staff, I want to develop a navigator role. Someone who can connect former employees, lapsed patients, and community members who've lost insurance coverage with the services they need before they end up in a parking structure. He paused. I have a candidate in mind for the navigator role if the board is interested. A board member named Hutchins, who had been a particular shade of unhappy since Gordon arrived 37 minutes late, said, You're proposing we build an entire program around one anecdote. No, Gordon said. I'm proposing we use one anecdote to fix a program we should have built years ago. Adele Marsh is not an anomaly. She's a pattern. I'd like us to stop pretending otherwise. The vote passed. All 12 members. Even Hutchins, who voted yes in the aggrieved manner of a man who knows he's on the wrong side of something. Outside the conference room, Dana had produced a turkey sandwich and a cup of hot chocolate, and Theo had eaten the sandwich in approximately 4 minutes, and was now sitting with the hot chocolate and the empty paper cup side by side on the chair beside him when Gordon came out. Gordon looked at the 2 cups. The other one was hers, Theo said. He meant Adele. From the coffee cart on Rampart Street, the morning before the shelter turned us away. She bought herself a coffee even though, he stopped. She said some things are worth $1, even when you don't have dollars. He turned the cup in his hands. I've been keeping it. Gordon sat down in the chair beside him. For a moment, neither of them said anything. Your mother is going to be angry, Gordon said finally. About today, about you coming here. Yes, Theo said, and she's going to cry probably. When she finds out about the severance. She never cries, Theo said. Today she might. Theo considered this. Maybe, he said. And then Gordon said, she's going to want to know everything that happened, every decision, every step, every phone call. Because that's who she is. Theo looked at him. You don't know her. No, Gordon said. But I know you and you came from somewhere. Theo was quiet for a long time. She used to tell me, he said finally, that the job of a charge nurse is not to be the smartest person in the room. It's to be the one who notices, who sees all the pieces other people are too busy to look at. He rubbed his thumb along the rim of the old coffee cup. She's really good at her job. I know, Gordon said. I read her reviews. All of them? Dana's fast. Theo almost smiled. It arrived at the corner of his mouth and stayed there, uncertain. She's going to need somewhere to live, he said, when they let her out. I know. I'm not asking you to. Theo, Gordon said. The boy stopped. Let me worry about the next step, Gordon said. You've carried enough steps for one day. Theo looked at him for a moment, and then he looked down at the 2 cups, the new paper one still warm between his palms, the old one quiet beside it on the chair, and he nodded. Adele Marsh was discharged 11 days later. She came out walking under her own power, which the attending physician told Gordon was both medically impressive and mildly infuriating, because she had spent the better part of 3 days telling the nursing staff she was ready to leave approximately every 6 hours. Gordon was not there for the discharge. He had made that call deliberately. He sent Dana with the paperwork and the cashier's check and a letter on Meridian letterhead that was 3 paragraphs long and said, without euphemism, what had happened, what Adele was owed, why she had not received it, and what Meridian intended to do about it. He also sent a folder with a job description. Not her old job, something different. A new position, Community Nurse Navigator, Westside Meridian Clinic, that the board had approved 2 weeks prior, that had been written specifically around a certain set of skills and that paid $4,000 more annually than her previous role. The letter said she was under no obligation to accept. It said there was no pressure and no quid pro quo and no expectation of gratitude. It said the offer stood regardless of whether she wanted anything further to do with Meridian Medical Partners. It said, you notice things that other people were too busy to see. We need more of that. Dana reported later that Adele had read the letter twice, put it down, looked out the window of the discharge room for about 30 seconds, and then picked it up and read it a 3rd time. She didn't cry. But Dana, who had worked for Gordon Hale for 14 years and was not given to sentimentality, did. Briefly, in the elevator going down. Theo was waiting on the front steps of the clinic, not because Gordon had arranged it. He hadn't. Theo had simply known when his mother's discharge was, and he had come, and he was sitting on the steps with a new jacket. Gordon had quietly added a gift card to the discharge packet, which Adele had quietly not returned, and his old sneakers, which he'd had resoled at a shoe repair shop on Fairfax that Dana had found him last week. When Adele came through the doors and saw him, she stopped. He stood up. She looked at him for a long moment in the thin December sun, at the jacket, the shoes, the way he was standing like someone who had been through something and come out the other side and was still figuring out what that meant. You're in trouble, she said. I know, Theo said. Going to a stranger's building, talking to executives, waiting in lobbies. I know. Anything could have happened, but it didn't. She walked down the last 2 steps and stood in front of him. She put her hand on the side of his face, a brief, firm gesture, the kind that contains everything, and then she pulled him into her arms and held him, and he held her back, and neither of them said anything for a while. The December light fell on the sidewalk around them. Somewhere down the block a car horn sounded and pigeons scattered, and the city moved on the way it always does, indifferent and endless. "I read the letter," Adele said into his hair. "And?" A pause. "I'm going to take the job." Theo didn't say "I told you so." He just nodded against her shoulder, small and certain, the way he'd looked up at Gordon in the lobby that morning, like someone who had known all along how it would end and had simply been waiting for everyone else to catch up. She stepped back and looked at him properly. "You kept the cup," she said. She was looking at his jacket pocket, where the rim of the old paper cup was just visible above the edge. "I always keep it," he said. Adele looked at it for a moment. Then she reached over and straightened it gently in his pocket so it sat flush and wouldn't fall. "Okay," she said. She took his hand and they walked down the street together into the December morning, and neither of them looked back at the building because there was no need to. What had needed to happen there had happened. The rest was ahead of them, ordinary and necessary and theirs.